start this over because I forgot to put on the recorder. So I got to go back again. So the man who was fresh off a hot date that warned the citizens of Concord of the British advance was Samuel Prescott. Man who joined Paul Revere in the initial ride to Lexington taking the southern land route was William Dawes Jr. The 78-year-old man who took on redcoats outside his home during the British retreat from Concord was Samuel Whitmore. And along with Samuel Adams was the target for arrest by the British at Lexington, John Hancock. Okay, back to you, Carter. Maybe African-American hero at the Battle of Breeds or Bunker Hill who proclaimed, "Stand your ground. If they want blood, let's show them their own." Salem Poor. Very good. Salem Poor. Okay, this is a little tougher question. I'll give it to Izzy. During that Second Continental Congress, when they first met, way back to talk about the possibility of independence, there was a radical and there was a conservative delegate there. I want you to tell me who the conservative delegate was during the Second Continental Congress that wasn't quite as radical as the one that said, "Give me liberty or give me death." Who was the conservative?
John Dickinson.
Very good, John Dickinson. He was the conservative delegate during the Second Continental Congress. Very good. Okay, Dylan. Give me one of the 5 men appointed on the committee to write a formal Declaration of Independence. Give me one of the 5 men appointed to the committee to write a formal Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson. Another one, Mackenzie. No, Richard hit. Robert Livingston. Okay, Jordy, give me another. Another one of the 5 authors of the Declaration of Independence. We have so far Roger Sherman, Thomas Jefferson, Robert R. Livingston. Kate, how about another one? These are not on the ID sheet, so you might have to dig them up. John Adams, very good. And Regan? Benjamin Franklin, very good. One of those will be on the match sheet. One of them will be there. Okay, very good. Aisha, my dear, who is the man who led the Patriot cause at the Lexington and Concord of the South in North Carolina? He actually has a bridge named after him. Oh. Man who led the Patriot cause at the Lexington and Concord of the South in North Carolina actually has a subtopic with a bridge named after him. Okay, man who led the Patriot cause at the Lexington and Concord of the South in North Carolina eventually had a bridge named after him and a battle named after the bridge. Daniel?
John Parker.
Got it, Aisha. What is it? Nope. Maddie? James Moore. Battle of Moores Creek Bridge. Let me read that one to you again. The man who led the Patriot cause at the Lexington and Concord of the South in North Carolina. James Moore. Okay, Zoe? Who is the British spy who discovered Patriot stockpiling of gunpowder, ammunition, and rifles at Concord? Jesus, it was not Jesus. Longfellow. No, he wrote a poem. Try to look at your very first name.
John Howe.
John Howe. He was the British spy who discovered Patriot stockpiling of gunpowder, ammunition, rifles at Concord. Danny, during the Second Continental Congress, who is the radical delegate that said, "Give me liberty or give me death"? Patrick Henry. Very good. Patrick Henry. Got a couple of Henrys in there, so don't get them mixed up. Richard Henry Lee and Patrick Henry. Don't get those mixed up. We'll get to Richard Henry Lee in a bit. Tatum, my dear, who was one of the leaders of the Green Mountain Boys who led the capture of British forts north of Massachusetts? There are actually 2. Give me one. one of them turns out to be a traitor. Yeah. Give me one of the leaders of the Green Mountain Boys who led in the capture of British forts north of Massachusetts. It would have been right after one of our battles. Right after the battle. There you go. Ethan Allen was one. Bailey, who was the other? Benedict Arnold. Very good. Caleb, who was the British officer who fought at Lexington and Concord, losing his life during the Battle of Breeds or Bunker Hill? He and Dr. Joseph Warren were killed there from the opposite sides. The British officer who fought at Lexington and Concord, who eventually lost his life during the Battle of Breeds or Bunker Hill. A lot of Johns, isn't there, in this period of time? Another John. Strange pronunciation of his last name.
He fought with?
He fought at the Battle of Lexington and Concord, and then he lost his life during the Battle of Breeds or Bunker Hill. John somebody.
John Pitcairn.
Pitcairn, very good. Good pronunciation too, John Pitcairn. Galen? Who was the British general who replaced General Thomas Gage after the fighting at Breeds or Bunker Hill? Yes, ma'am. Sir William Howe. Very good. Sir William Howe. That's very good. Riley. Who was the man from Virginia who introduced a resolution in the Second Continental Congress declaring that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states? Man from Virginia who introduced a resolution in the Second Continental Congress declaring that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states. Our other Henry. Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death." Who is our other Henry? Middle name. Man from Virginia who introduced a resolution, be late in your notes, in the Second Continental Congress declaring that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states. Richard Henry Lee. Richard Henry Lee. Yep. Very good. Hey, have I missed anybody here? I think I've got just about everybody, haven't I? So Jordy, I'll give you this last matching. Who is the patriot leader of 77 colonial Minutemen at the Battle of Lexington? Another John. Real early in your notes. The patriot leader of 77 colonial Minutemen at Battle of Lexington. He said, "We are here, we have arms, and we're going to resist." Who said that? John who? Parker. Very good. John Parker. Wonderful. Okay, that's your matching. 15 of them. The names will be there. I'll go through the names one more time. If you want to check them on your ID sheet, you'll be looking at John Howe, John Hancock, Samuel Whitmore, William Dawes Jr., Samuel Prescott, John Parker, John Pitcairn, Ethan Allen, Patrick Henry, John Dickinson, Salem Poor, Sir William Howe, James Moore, Richard Henry Lee, and Robert R. Livingston. Those are the 15. You'll need to know what matches up with those 15.
What was the last one?
The last one was Robert R. Livingston. Okay, here's our first short answer question. I'm going to give it to Carter. What was the name of the radical pamphlet that Thomas Paine authored in January of 1776? Common Sense. Is that underlined on your ID sheet? Okay, make sure it's underlined on your answer. Common Sense. Okay, Izzy, complete the following, written by Thomas Paine. The period of debate is closed. Arms, as the last resource, must decide this contest. Everything that is right or reasonable pleads for separation. The blood of the slain, the weeping voice of nature cries. Come on, I was really building up to that too. I'm just expecting boom and answer. 'Tis time to answer. Let's go. What is it? 'Tis time to part. Is that in quotation marks? Yeah, make sure it is on your test as well. The slain, the weeping voice of nature cries, 'tis time to part. Luke Lamb. Who was the president of the Continental Congress who signed the Declaration of Independence in bold, large strokes so that the King of England would have no trouble reading his signature?
John Hancock.
John Hancock, very good. All right, digging deep here a little bit. Andy, give me one of the 5 reasons why many American colonists were cautious or apprehensive about going to war with Great Britain. You're going to need to know all 5, so give me one.
Because they were reluctant to make a final break with Great Britain.
Perfect. They were reluctant to make a final break from Great Britain. Bailey, give me another reason why many colonists were cautious about a war with the mother country.
They did it. The British government was protecting them.
From what?
From other countries.
Okay, the British government was protecting the colonies from their enemies. The British government was protecting the colonies from their enemies. Okay, give me another reason why people were apprehensive or cautious about a war with Great Britain. Okay, you're close. Their concern was, what will happen to us if we lose a war with Great Britain? What will be our fate? What will happen to us? Will we be executed as traitors? So their concern was, what would happen if the colonies lost a war with Great Britain? Danny, give me another one. What's that? Okay, I would put the answer, they were concerned about mob rule in the colonial government if they won the war with Great Britain. They were concerned about mob rule by the colonial government if they won a war with Great Britain. They were concerned about mob rule by the colonial government if the colonies would defeat Great Britain in war. Okay, there's one more. Who's got it? Izzy?
The UK colonists had maintained law and order.
What's that?
The Great Britain had
Yeah.
maintained law and order.
Great Britain had maintained law and order and stability in the colonies. Okay? Great Britain had maintained law and order and stability in the colonies. Okay, Regan, give me a reason why many colonists believed that independence from Great Britain would be great. Going to war would be awesome.
Because they violated the colonists' rights.
Because the civil rights of the colonists had been violated. Or you could put that the colonists had been harassed and treated unfairly by Great Britain. That'd be a way to explain it. Daniel, is there another reason why people thought it would be great to go to war with Great Britain and get their independence?
Taxation without representation.
Yeah, that kind of goes with what he said. That was treating you poorly.
There had already been colonial blood.
There had already been colonial blood spilled.
Yeah.
And another one you could put down, you won't have to come up with all 3, but another one you could put down is by going to war with Great Britain, they would have a better chance of getting aid from both France and Spain because a war against Great Britain would weaken Great Britain, and they thought they'd have a better chance to get them to kick in with them, right? Okay. So you'll need to know a couple of those. Okay. Aisha, who was the man who actually wrote the Declaration of Independence? He had a committee of 5 that helped him, but who actually wrote it? Who was the author of the Declaration of Independence? Thomas Jefferson, very good. Luke Mortimer, when Thomas Paine wrote Common Sense, before his kind of exuberant thing of "'Tis time to part" came about, what did he first say in the pamphlet to kind of explain what it was? He said what? So during the writings of Thomas Paine, one thing he stated, other than the more exuberant "'Tis time to part" part, so to speak, is what? What did he say? It was a quote. So during the writings of Thomas Paine, one thing he stated early in the pamphlet was, "I offer nothing more then simple facts, plain arguments, and common sense. So during the writings of Thomas Paine, one thing he emphasized early in the pamphlet was I offered nothing more than simple facts, plain arguments, and common sense. Okay? Dylan, after the Battle of Breeds or Bunker Hill, King George III wasn't very happy, was he? And he was shocked. What's one of the things he did immediately after the Battle of Breeds or Bunker Hill? What did he do?
He hired Sir William over Thomas.
No. He did that, but that wasn't his reaction to it.
He was upset.
Well, I know that, but what did he do because he was upset?
We ordered a British naval blockade.
Of all American ports. He ordered a British naval blockade of all American ports. Very good. Okay, Mackenzie, what else did he do? You could put that, or you could put he hired 10,000 Hessians, soldiers of fortune, to fight against the American colonies. All right, I'm also going to ask you 5 extra credit questions on the test, either off the video we watched or maybe the lecture. But before I do quit, I want to kind of give you a little bit of a clue on true or false questions. On the test it will say, true or false questions. Circle the number of the question or questions you believe to be false. So you'll read the question. If you think it's false, you'll just circle like the 24. If you think it's true, what are you going to do? Just leave it alone. So there's no T or F's. Just circle the number of the ones you think are going to be false. That'll be the directions, and you'll have 3 statements tomorrow. I'm going to start you out with 3. But let me tell you a little bit about true or false questions. Now, I took a course in graduate school. I take a course on school law to be an administrator. And every day, Dr. Thibault, every day, gave us a 10-question true or false quiz on the readings from the night before. Every single day. Well, I went and talked to a friend of mine who had taken the class, and I said, God, that seems like those are kind of tough. And he said, well, I'm going to give you a big piece of advice, and if you listen to me, you'll do well. If you don't listen to me, you might struggle. He said, what you do on true or false questions is you read it one time very well and answer it, and do not go back. Because what are you going to do if you go back? You're going to talk yourself out of it. True and false questions are difficult for smart people because they think too much, okay? So read it one time and answer it. Because if I put 10 true or false questions on a test and every one of them are true, your head's going to explode because you're going to think there's no way this guy is going to make every one of these true. You can't predict. You can't overthink. You have to read the question and see if it's true. And if it is, it is. If it isn't, it isn't. Now, I will never give you a true or false question that will be false because of a date or a number. You know what I mean? Like 10,345 or on May 12, 1945. It won't be false because of that. There'll be something in it. Now, another thing about true or false, I took a class in graduate school on writing test questions. It was the best class I ever took on how to write good test questions because lots of times people have a hard time doing that. So I gave you a multiple choice test in here, have I not yet? Oh, it must have been the other class. But anyway, those are the hardest ones to write, is multiple choice. Okay? They're really difficult to write. And so you could write a bad one. So sometimes, you know, you have to rethink your writing of tests. But anyway, what we had to do in that class is he would say, bring in 3 multiple choice questions tomorrow from your field of study, and then he would just butcher them. Bring in 3 true or false questions from your field of study, and he'd just butcher them. Bring in 3 short answer, and he'd butcher them to make you write good questions. Because that's part of the problem when you assess some kids, is if you write bad questions, you don't get the proper assessment. True and false are difficult questions to write, and they're difficult to write so that they are false. It's easy to write a true statement, isn't it? I think I could write 100 true statements off this lecture, right? That's going through my note. Notes that say, Sir William Howe replaced General Thomas Gage after the Battle of Breeds Hill. That's pretty easy, right? Now to make that false, I'd have to put another name in there, wouldn't I? Or whatever. Well, I'll tell you a little story. One year, when I was taking my referee test for basketball, and the test is 100 true or false questions. That's what it is. And you have to get a 70% on the test to pass. So with the referee test, you can, if you don't pass it, you can take it again. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. So I decided for the fun of it, I was gonna answer every single question true. So I just went down, got a 78% on the test and passed. I'll take it, yeah. Why? Much harder to write a false statement than it is a true statement. And it takes more time. So my suggestion would you, if you read one and you're just not sure, your best bet is to mark it true. Because the chances are 70% of them are going to be true. That's why I'll put them all false tomorrow and your head will explode. But no, not necessarily. So anyway, we will give you these questions. It's just 3 of them. We will get to a point where we might give you 10. And I have a rule on true or false, Maddie. If I give you 10 questions and you answer all 10 and you get all 10 wrong, I give you credit for them right plus 5 points extra credit. That never really happens. That you could, I've had kids, Keith Campbell, who is a good friend of mine, I taught him my first year in education. He's a superintendent of schools at Custer County High School, Miles City, Montana. So he thought he was smarter than me one time. And he knew all the answers, so he was going to answer them all wrong so he could get them all right and be the first person to ever do that. Guess what he did? Missed one. He got one right, which meant he got 9 wrong, which meant he got 9 wrong. And we still talk about how he thought he was smarter than me. And he probably is now, but he wasn't then, okay? Does anybody have any questions on the test tomorrow then? Okay, we will meet in the Commons and take that tomorrow. Be prepared. I'm not guaranteeing this in any way, shape, or form. Matter of fact, I'm saying it's probably not going to happen. But always bring your 3-ring binder with you in case I change my mind and let you use your notes.